The thing that's most exciting to me about this book is its accessibility. As a university professor, I am often encouraged to write very academic books that are geared to a very limited audience. And one of the things we wanted to do with this Everyday Practices and Christian Faith series is write accessible books. They're still intellectual, they still have deep academic thoughts in them. However, they're written in a way that's much more accessible to a broader audience. So when I was writing the book, I was thinking about my undergraduate students in upper level seminars. I was thinking about master's students, focusing on ministry and academic studies. And frankly, I was thinking about adult Christian groups that want to probe more deeply into their spirituality and look at sort of these deep intellectual questions and how one's faith can inform them. So really, in terms of teaching the book, I have to say it's probably the most teachable book I've ever written, because it's written in a very accessible way. It's written in a way that can speak to a very broad audience. It's not weighed down with footnotes, it's not weighed down with jargon, but at the same time, it still pushes these deeper questions. And I think that's so important. Often when we think about serious thought, we think that serious means inaccessible. And this book is very accessible. After all, the very act of shopping is something everyone does, and I constantly kept that in mind when I was exploring the book. So in terms of teaching the book, I think it's something that individuals can read together, whether it's in small pastoral settings, whether it's in the classroom, and really explore the questions that I raise in the book together. There's a bibliography for future readings. There are discussion questions at the end of the book so you can probe deeper into some of the issues that I raise in the text. And ultimately for me, it's a book you can read alone, but I think you'll get so much more out of it if you read it together. This past spring, I spent 3 weeks teaching actually the book to a Lutheran church here in Miami, and it was a group of adults that gather weekly and have lectures from local scholars in different fields in religion and really want to push deeper into questions of faith. And it was such a delight to read shopping with them, to discuss shopping with them, and I was so glad to hear how accessible they found the book and really how hungry they were to find texts that look seriously at Christian theology, look seriously at the Christian faith, but are written to a broader, educated audience. It's teachable in very diverse settings, and I think that's probably one of the greatest strengths of the book. Various religious traditions could have informed my study of shopping, yet I chose to focus on Christianity, in part because this is my training, but also because I wanted to delve deeply into the Christian tradition and look at what Christianity has to say about shopping. This is especially poignant in terms of the U.S. context. After all, even though we're a nation that separates church and state, the U.S.'s history is heavily influenced by Christianity, and some argue that capitalism and Protestant Christianity go hand in hand. Whether I would have focused on the Buddhist attachment of material goods or the Hindu emphasis on moral actions and how that implicates one's destiny, for me, it's going into the particularity of what one knows. It's going into the particularity of Christianity and saying, okay, let's open up a broader conversation, yet coming from one's individual perspective. Essentially, Christian ethics are a fundamental contribution to how we understand the world and how we see our daily actions. And for me, this isn't a book just for Christians. This is a book that shows the Christian contribution to social ethics, the Christian contribution to how we can understand shopping and think a little bit more deeply, not only about how we shop, but even perhaps more importantly, why we shop. And ultimately that question of why we shop challenges us to look at what we value.